Hi. What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up? It's my Friday dance, y'all. It's Friday. It's Friday. Ooh, ooh, it's Friday. You didn't even know that you didn't know that you needed to hear me singing about Friday in your life, but you did. Am I right? Probably not. How is everybody doing? I'm out of breath. The reason for that is that I just came up the stairs in my house. That is the level of fitness that we are working with in 2020. Y'all, it's kind of tragic. But yes, that's why I'm so out of breath. Literally just the stairs in my home does that. Does anyone watch Schitt's Creek? It's one of those shows where I tried to watch it and I was like, I don't get it. Like, why is everybody like this? What's going on? And I watched a couple episodes and I was like, I don't know what this is. And then maybe like a year later, I tried it again and I was like, this is the funniest show on television. And I started watching it and I love it. And y'all, I'm such a hoarder. I have such hoarding tendencies that like I stopped watching in like season 3 because I didn't want it to end. At that point, I knew the show was going to end. And I was like, I don't want it to end. So I just stopped watching it. So ridiculous. I should continue. But anyway, I bring that up because I feel like this is a sweater that David Rose would really appreciate. It's got his black and white theme, got a little texture. I think he'd love it. All right. So we're doing Q&A today. I'm super excited about that. I always love when I get to answer your guys' questions directly. If you are watching live on Facebook, please go ahead and accept with StreamYard so that I can see your name and see who you are. I feel like I'm getting lipstick on my teeth. You guys would tell me, right? You would tell me. But let me know who's here. Where are you tuning in from? And what is the weather like where you are? These are the questions. You should start watching. And I'm going to warn you guys, like, I definitely have lipstick on my teeth. We're just going to roll with it. It's a weird little show, right? So I think like if you don't get the humor at first, just keep watching it. Like it's really funny. It's just really funny. I highly enjoy it. I actually end up find myself doing like weird little like Alexis movements and different things during the day. If you I think she's been on Ellen, they've all been on Ellen, but like there's some interviews where the actress, I think her name is Annie, talks about her inspiration for Alexis. And it's like all of the like, Paris Hilton, Kardashians, like that whole set of whatever that does. And she like studied them. And I guess there's like the vocal fry, right? Where you like modulate your voice. But then they also, I guess, like just kind of like do this with their hands a lot. And she was like, well, if they do that, like, what would it be like to do like both hands and just like always be doing this? Which I just think is like, I don't know. There's some really good like character acting that goes on. So I recommend it. Come back and let me know what you think. So still out of breath. That's going to stick around. Does anyone know what kolaches are? Because I had kolaches today. It's like a Texas thing, I think. It's a Czech food. They kind of are like bagel dogs. I think they're sweet ones as well, but they're like bagel dogs. And they sell them here. I'd never in my life heard of them. And I moved to an apartment building when I first moved to Houston. And there was a little place with a drive-through called the Kolache Factory. And I was like, what is this? And it was always like a line around the whole little like kiosk, like every single morning. So I finally looked it up and went over there. They're tasty. The fog is lifted here in Sacramento. Yay! Yay for the sun being out. Some of you know I grew up in Berkeley and Oakland, California, all around the Bay Area. So very familiar with the fog situation. And like, it's great when it lifts. A couple things before we get started. One, I have been threatening for a while, but I am gonna put my YouTube video up of the products that I love the most in 2020. It's like 2020 was a dumpster fire of a year, so we should talk about what we loved about it. Am I right? So it's gonna be like, beauty, skincare, clothing, vacuums. I mean, just everything that I figured out in 2020 that like I need to have in my life. All right. So let's get into with your questions. If you have a specific style question for me, style or fit, please put it into the comments right on now. Or I could say right meow, because we now have 2 kittens in my house. It's a terrible idea. I mean, they're adorable, but like they've learned how to play fight each other. So there's like caterwauling all the time on like all of my Zoom calls. Y'all, it legit sounds like, how like in every 80s movie, there's all these alleys. There's always like a, oh no, like we're in, or like in Buffy, it's like we're in like the back alley. Like where are all these alleys coming from? But anyway, and you go into the alley, you're not supposed to be in the alley. You hear like a tin can and a cat fight. And that's how you know you're like on the wrong side of town. That's what my house sounds like all the time now. My house sounds like the wrong side of town. It's like I live in the alley behind a Blockbuster. That's what it sounds like. Anywho, so I'm going to get those product recommendations to y'all. I'll let you know when the video's up. Sorry, I'm looking for another screen. Okay, so we have one question here. Please put your questions in the chat or in the comments as we go on. Okay, so one of our community members says, I am top heavy, GGG. So it's hard to find tops that fit the girls and don't look bulky in the midsection. So let's talk about this. So if you are bigger on top in my system is defined as having a bust measurement that is at least 2 inches greater than your hip measurement. You still have some definition in the waist. Or bigger on top can also be, I'm just going to move you guys away a little bit. That's my microphone, if you're wondering what that is. Bigger on top can also be if you have broad shoulders. And so like the overall proportion of your body seems bigger on top, even if your bust is not larger than your waist. But for most folks, bigger on top is having a bust. People call it top heavy. People call it a lot of things. I like to go with like the objective stuff, right? So like it is 2 inches greater in circumference than your waist. Than your hips. So when that's the case, you do sometimes, get that kind of like bulky feeling, or like my grandmother has, like we call it, it's a shelf, like that is what it does. I mean, I have to say, they seem very perky. She's 85, so she's got a shelf. As I've gained weight and these have gotten increased in size, like food, there's like a whole, like I guess maybe when I used to like drop food on accident, it would just go to the floor. Now it just goes right here. The things people don't tell you about gaining weight in your boobs. Okay, so style-wise, fit-wise, what are we looking for? You want to look for straight-fitting tops. A straight-fitting top is a top that from the armpit seam pretty much comes straight down. So it's going to skim your body, not cling, but it's also not going to tent away. So when you have more of like a trapeze top or like a loose fitting or like a wide top, that generally is just going to add bulk everywhere. So if your bust is already the widest part of your proportion, you need to keep it in frame, right? So a straight top is going to keep your bust line right where the eye naturally already thinks that it is. If you add volume to it underneath, all of you looks to be that size, and it's typically not as flattering. You can wear a fitted top. I don't have rules about who wears fitted, like if you like a more bodycon look, that to me is a personal preference. So you can wear something more fitted. You will typically just want to balance out your bottom half and have like a straight leg jean, a boot cut jean, a wide leg trouser, or if you are going to do skinnies, then you would want to have them so that, there's visual weight in your shoes, meaning like a chunky boot or like a platform sandal. What are sandals? I don't remember, but my style knowledge tells me we used to wear shoes outside of the home. So I hope that that's helpful for getting away from, because I get it. Like, you can kind of feel a little bit bulky up top if you do have a larger bust. You might hear some stylists talk about like define a waist, define a waist, define a waist. Not everyone needs a defined waist. I don't subscribe to that. I think that defining a waistline works for a lot of body types. It doesn't work for everyone. And so kind of depending also on like where your bust is in proportion to where your stomach starts, defining a waist is not always going to be the best thing. If there's very little room between the end of your bust and the start of a stomach, you're basically just making it so that it's like a little teeny strip of person in between those two zones. It just usually doesn't make sense on a body. So you usually be better off with like ruching or like some detail in the top, or a V neckline that kind of still gives you a way to break up your bust line or draw attention, right? Like if you have one of those like wrap tops with the ruching that comes like over here. So you're drawing attention away from the bust and creating some separation in zones of the body without like putting a belt on it or really defining it. Super familiar with the shelf is one of the comments. Just saying. It is what it is. Okay. Hope that was helpful. Let's get into a couple more. And again, if you guys watching live have fit or style questions about anything, I'm your girl. Okay. I need help finding things that are simple and stylish. I don't like bright colors or patterns, but I want my style to be simple but not boring. Fair. So those of you who have taken my style quiz, it's style.brandeisnicole.com/quiz. If you've taken my style quiz, oh wait, look at this. Hey girl, hey. Get out of here. Look at what I can do. Okay, so that's the quiz. If you haven't taken it, I highly recommend hightailing it over after my live, because why wouldn't you want to stick around for this? But going to take the quiz. So in my quiz, there's one of the outcomes can be minimalist. And so like these folks typically like lots of neutrals, don't love a ton of pattern. But sometimes you can struggle, right, with like, how do you still make an outfit interesting if it's not going to come from color or pattern? So I very much understand the question. So the way to do this is still to think about visual interest. So the key components of visual interest are texture, print, pattern, and shine. Colors kind of along for the ride. So if you're not going to do pattern, I would say, so print and pattern are different, right? So something like a polka dot or a houndstooth or a stripe, for some people can feel a little bit more muted, right? Than a print like this guy that just feels like, whoa, way too much. You're doing too much, right? So a pattern is something that repeats pretty geometrically or kind of consistently. And so sometimes that can feel like a good way to dip a toe in the print pattern waters without it having it feel like totally wild. But if solids truly are your jam, then I would say you're going to have to go for texture or for shine. Shine doesn't mean that you have to wear like gold lame, right, in a top, even though I love gold. I would probably do it. That's not your lane. That could literally just be like jewelry. That could be a simple pair of gold studs that you wear every day. It could be, like a statement necklace or a small kind of more dainty necklace that you wear. So any kind of jewelry, any way that you can add shine. You could add shine through honestly just like gloss, right? Like you could still have like clear lip whatever on, gloss it up a little bit. So there's different ways to kind of add shine and dimension to the rest of your look if it's not going to be in your clothing. And then texture. I've got some texture on today. There's a way to, incorporate texture. So mixing, say, a fine knit and a chunky knit. Having things that have, like, there's a lot of fringe out right now. So find things that are, maybe in your comfort zone, but maybe push you just a little bit, but adding that texture is going to give you more of a vibe. The other way I would say to do this with color is to do monochromatic looks. So vary the tone of the blues, right? So, mix like a navy blue with a brighter blue, like there's ways that you can still have fun with color, even if you're not into prints and all of that. So definitely think about those things. Color blocking works really well. If that's the style vibe that you gravitate to, you can definitely do that too. Okay. So we'll take another one. Let me also head over to the comments section. Now that you mentioned boot cut, who is that for? I feel like skinny works for me. Yeah. So it's really funny, right? Like I think for some of us, it's like how much of what we like is influenced by what we see everywhere and like what's trending, even if we don't feel particular like we're subscribing to trends, and how much of it truly is just like it makes sense on a body, right? I think skinny jeans falls into that category. I remember when skinny jeans came out, I was like, oh, hell no. Like, no, right? So this was like the heyday of like the trouser leg, the wide leg, the palazzo pant. Can I get a heck yes for a palazzo pant up in here? Like everything was a very wide or loose or relaxed silhouette. And skinny jeans just felt like that is a bridge too far, ma'am. Like, what are you trying to do? Why are you trying to show all my secrets? And they were low rise. They had the nerve to be low rise. Okay. I was like, we're going to have to just take a beat on this. So I was a late adopter. I saw someone just commented, it took me forever to adopt skinnies. LOL. Yeah, it took me forever too. I was just like, no, you're not going to catch me out on the streets like this with all these tiny little legs and So for one thing, when they started making them higher rise, I was like, okay. And now like it is difficult for me to imagine a client I would not put in skinny jeans, not because they're trendy, but because it gives you so much more variety in what you're able to do in balancing out your figure. Because if you know where you're narrowing, you can then decide how much volume you're adding on top or not, and then how much volume you're adding on the bottom with your shoes. I think straight legs go here too. And when I say skinnies, I don't mean jeggings. So jeggings and leggings, it's a really different look. So like those like super skinny jeans that really, really, really pencil in, those are not for everyone. There's some body types where it just narrows in way too much at the ankle. And it's like you can't ever truly start to balance out your top and your bottom when it's so extreme at the bottom. So I don't mean that. But in general, like an 11 to 13 inch leg opening, and this is something you can find if you go online and you look at the description of a pair of jeans, it'll usually say what the leg opening is. Below 11 is like usually like a really super skinny one. So between like 11 and 13 inches for a leg opening, that's like a pretty typical skinny. So it's just funny. Like now I'm like, I don't know why you wouldn't wear that. Okay, back to your question, boot cut. So here's the thing you need to understand about like the way that I do fit, right? Brandeis is going to draw. Get excited. When you have a silhouette that deviates from the natural contours of your body, so this is why skinnies work. They basically just follow along the contours of your body. So it can be a little bit easier to figure out what to do on top and bottom. So when you have a boot cut, yes, I'm actually drawing. When you have a boot cut on, if you think about, kind of just the shape of that, right? It's going down and then like here's your leg and then we're flaring just a little bit. That is not naturally what your body is doing. And so since that's not naturally what your body is doing, you then have to make some concessions or some decisions, maybe I should say. Okay, so here we have, she looks, I don't know who that is, but let's just go with it. Okay. So if like those are our legs, you guys know how hard it is to draw legs when you don't know how to draw. So if here are our legs, okay, and they're going down, your legs are going to continue to go down at the bottom, right? So when you introduce a flare or any sort of more material around the ankle, you're now throwing off your proportions between there and the knee and potentially even above. So what you then have to think about is, can your body proportions kind of withstand that? The answer to that is, for most of us, yes, if it's a small boot cut. But if your body type is bigger on the bottom and you carry the majority of your proportions around your outer hips and thighs, if that's where you're at your widest and then you come back in at your knees and then you start to go down, when you create a flare down here, that flare starts to relate back to the wideness at your hips. Those two things now have a relationship, and it's making your entire body line look less elongated because it's basically saying to the eye that your body goes out, in, out again at the bottom. So the only part that's long is around your knees in the middle, and you're going to look short. Not that short is a bad thing. You're going to look less elongated and you're going to look a little bit stumpy. I would venture to say stumpy is not a thing that most of us aspire to. So that's who it's not for. If you have a straight body type, you should be good. You don't have a ton going on in hips and thighs. It's not that they're not there, right? But it's either like very elongated, so it's a stretched out curve, or you do have a narrower hip set. If you add a little bit to the bottom, what that's going to relate to, the widest part of your body is probably either your bust or your stomach. That's far enough away from the bottom of your jeans that it's not going to cause this in, out, in dramatic situation that you're going to have if you're bigger on the bottom, where comparatively your ankles are closer to your thighs, right? So if your thighs are here and now your ankles are here, it's a lot going on in a shorter amount of real estate. Does that make sense? Can y'all comment in and be like, Brandi, what are we talking about? Or Brandi, oh my God, light bulb. Like, let me know, and let me know if you have other questions. Don't shy away from skinnies. I will say that. Like, people are sometimes like, oh, I feel like skinny jeans work for me. It's okay. Let them work for you. It's less work that you have to do because it follows the natural contours of your body, which is just like helpful. Okay. Yay. Yes, that's perfect. And thanks. Okay, good. So glad. You guys also got to see, I mean, what is this? What's happening? She has a belt on. I don't know. I have a question about belt widths. Let's do it. Are there any rules for how wide a belt should be when you are using it to create a waist on a dress? And by the way, I hate those fabric belts that come with dresses because they do not at all hold their shape. Let me give you props for that. Okay. Self belts are the devil. Y'all, if you ever get a dress and it has those teeny tiny little threads, on the side, and some sort of belt that the dress came with, especially if it's a piece of fabric, please throw that out immediately. Please. 2 reasons. 1, they don't know where your waist is. They don't. So that thing is going to come around, the waist. Waists vary on people, right? So what you want to do is take your hands and you're going to skim them from underneath your bust down the sides of your body, and where they come in the most, which is usually underneath kind of like your last like floating rib, that is your natural waist. That is where you belt. Whatever you got on this dress from wherever that line is, they don't know if that's right for you or not. So that's number 1 of like why you take it off. And 2, I'm just going to tell it like it is. Like, it looks cheap. Often it really cheapens the look of the dress that you have. So take that bad boy off, add on a real belt that you have, and it's always going to elevate the look. Like, always, always, always. Okay, so for how wide it should be. So the width of it depends a lot on your body shape, actually, right? So for example, as I've gained weight, my stomach starts to protrude much closer to where my bust line stops. So putting on a really narrow belt, it just gets lost. I used to do like a whole like cute little like, J. Crew like 1 inch patent leather belt, and I'd like tie it, and over a cardigan. It all was adorable. But I had a straighter body proportion in the middle at that point, right? So nothing was kind of like pushing the belt out. And there was more separation in between my bust and my stomach because my stomach was flatter. So now that it's not, I don't fight it, right? I'm not like, let me just keep trying to use this belt. It doesn't, the proportions are wrong. And so for me now, a wider belt, like a good like 3 incher, that and it's got to have stretchy sides. The reason for that being like, because I have more in the middle now, like I need something to work with me, not against me. So the stretch helps. But that will actually truly proportionally visually separate my my bust from my stomach, right? So it's like if bust is this big and stomach is this big, you can't have a 1 inch belt. So I'm going to go bust, belt, and then my stomach will seem a little bit shorter or smaller. So it actually depends a lot, I'd say, like what you have working in your midsection. Other than that, 1 inch belt will always be very cute as an accent piece. If you're doing it not at your waist, but like on a dress, it will be an accent. If you do a 2 or 2.5 inch piece, that is going to make it look like a top and a skirt. So it also just has to do with like what look are you going for, if that makes sense. All right, y'all. I love these Q&As. Look, I got choked up. I love them so much. No, I love these Q&As. Thank you guys so much for the questions. Have a great long weekend. If you have indeed the full 3 days off, I implore each and every one of you, as I do every week, whether you're on my email list or however we met each other, to continue this work of anti-racism, to denounce white supremacy. And so on, as we head into Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s day, that holiday, I just invite us all to just do some self-reflection and think about how we're taking action in our lives to build a brighter and better future. So that's it for today. Hit me up in the comments if you guys have additional questions. Take that quiz if you haven't taken it. I think it's just like super fun. And I can't wait to see you guys next time. All right. Have a good one. Bye.